Good afternoon once again, book lovers of the internet. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am Book Nerd 822, and in this video I am going to be reviewing this book called Santa and Son by David Walliams. This was published just a couple of days ago. David Walliams is on the cover referred to as the number one king of comedy. It has some very brilliant illustrations by Adam Stower as well. This one consists of about 300 pages, and I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. Hardly took me any time to get through at all, and there will be a couple of spoilers ahead, so definitely stay tuned, you have been warned. And I bought this one from the agenda stand at the Malta Book Festival of 2025 just a couple of days ago with vouchers my brother received given to him by the government to promote literacy in the country, which was a brilliant initiative. So, as I mentioned, this one was published just a couple of days ago, and I had a lovely time reading it, especially since I've recently been trying to get into the Christmas spirit, since Christmas is now less than 2 months away, and I found this one to be very enjoyable. And Elvis is the name of the protagonist, our main character. He basically meets his father dressed as Santa on Christmas Eve after not having seen him for 5 years since his dad had walked out on the family. And then Elvis goes on to have the craziest adventure during the night between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, all whilst his mother thinks that he is safe in bed and that he isn't in danger, even though his life was put on the line on multiple occasions during a couple of hours. And I do have a few issues with this one, which is why I did not give it a 5 out of 5 stars. And the bad guys were meant to steal loads of money towards the start of the book, since money cannot be deposited in the bank um, on Christmas Day, to my knowledge, so they had all the opportunity, all the time they needed to steal the money and escape, since it couldn't be deposited into a bank. And even though the building was very heavily guarded, they just decided to blow it all up instead. Don't even um, tell me how they managed to sneak all of the weapons they needed inside, even though they did pretend to be workers at the establishment. Kind of reminded me of what happened um, in Paris a couple of weeks ago now with the jewelry. Hilarious. And they then destroyed the entire building. Didn't manage to get any money whatsoever. And Elvis and his father only contributed to wrecking the building called Londinium some more. And Londinium is the biggest toy store in all of London, if not the whole world. I'm not quite sure, but it's absolutely massive, and they just destroyed it completely throughout the book. And yeah, even though a lot of profit is made during the days um, before Christmas, all of this was basically ruined. And I am not quite sure as to whether towards the end of the story, huge spoiler ahead, by the way, when Santa and his elves spoke with Elvis and he convinced them to fix the building again, I am not quite sure as to whether the money was repaired as well. That was never really clarified, but I don't suppose that is really the main focus of the story. It's meant to be wholesome and magical and imaginative, and I would have thought that in an ideal world, the bad guys would have been tied up and the police called, rather than spending a good 200 pages destroying the store, from which they were meant to steal a bunch of money, as I mentioned, and they couldn't escape for the life of them because the building was heavily guarded, very locked up with chains that could not be destroyed in any way. They were basically locked in a building, inside of which they put a bomb which they could not defuse. So they put themselves into that kind of trap. It was a fun read, and I do understand that, as I said, it's meant to be magical, wholesome, and imaginative, but the bad guys surely could have done better. Not that I was at any rate rooting for the bad guys. They were rather funny characters, however, apart from the fact that they um, physically and psychologically tormented and abused their child, which they called Bozo. Um, they were rather good antagonists, brilliantly written. But yeah, it's not as though they couldn't have done better. They had been doing this job for a good several years, so it wasn't as realistic. The good guys did manage to fix the entire building thanks to Santa's elves towards the end of the story, and Bozo even got a happy ending and a new name, which I think he deserved. However, when one is dealing with such brilliant criminals as a Rose and Des, and they are still alive in case a sequel needs to be written, Elvis, the main character who was also named after the rock and roll king, Elvis Presley, should not have had such an easy time defeating them. He had a lot of plot armor going on. I really appreciated how David Walliams sometimes inserted himself into the story, broke the fourth wall entirely, and they also enjoyed how several chapters were titled after Elvis Presley songs. That was a cool touch, and he didn't really have that much of an easy time winning against the antagonists because the entire store was destroyed in the process, and he almost died on several occasions, taking out both his father and an elderly man with him. On many occasions that almost happened, from drowning to electrocution to being pelted with so many items. But yeah, um, it was still relatively easy considering the experience that the criminals had, and the fact that Elvis was completely new to this. It reminded me a lot of Home Alone, um, for multiple reasons. What with all the booby traps, with turning toys into weapons, the whole Christmas vibe going on, absolutely lovely. And I really did, as I mentioned, enjoy how Williams occasionally breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly with the readers, but at this stage, I'm not surprised since he basically destroyed every wall and ceiling in Londinium, which was a strange thing to do. Since the whole point, I suppose, was for the guys to try to defuse the bomb, not cause damage to the store, defeat the bad guys, and keep the store intact, not dying at the same time. And none of that happened, basically. They were all just lucky enough to have magic and fix the whole thing. This certainly gave off Home Alone vibes, and other Christmas movies as well. The Grinch, perhaps, for instance, Death did remind me a bit of the Grinch wanting to steal away Christmas, being a completely nasty character. But yeah, it had even more destruction and near death experiences than Home Alone itself. And one final point is I also really enjoyed how so much attention is paid to nurses and the NHS, since Elvis's mum is one and she works several hours a week whilst doing her job passionately and not earning much, which is an absolute shame. And yeah, considering that my mother is a nurse as well, that really struck a chord with me. And I think that they deserve much more attention and respect, especially during or around Christmas time, and I am almost certain that this one will get a sequel, since the ending leaves so much to desire. For instance, what happened to Elvis's father? Um, what happens to Bozo as well? What happened to the criminals? I have a feeling that we're going to be getting a sequel very, very soon, and I look forward to it as well. I will definitely be reviewing it on my channel. But that is all I had to say about Santa and Son by David Walliams. We also have his signature on the back over here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, share, subscribe. Take a look at the rest of my content because why not? It's absolutely amazing. And I will see you in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Bye, guys.